You were listening to Unguarded, a podcast where we talk about relationships, we talk about life in all the different seasons. And we are here. I'm Joe Smith. This is my incredible wife.
I'm Beck.
And we are Mr. and Mrs. Smith. By the way, so many people with your unwarranted comments and suggestions. Why isn't the podcast called Mr. and Mrs. Smith? You know,
I literally texted you and said maybe we should change it.
It's true, and we did have a lot of conversations. That was one option.
It was an option,
But
yeah.
searchability was one reason that we went in a different direction.
I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith because that's who we are. That's kind of cool that that's our last name.
Yeah.
I never would have thought I'd want to be a Smith. That just reminds me of when I was when I was dating you. I met this girl and I was like, yeah, my last name's Bell. Like, it's such a boring name, which in America is not a boring name, but in New Zealand, Australia, it felt like a boring name.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, my name's Bell. I just don't like it. And she's like, well, at least you're not a Smith.
Oh, if you only knew.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm dating a Smith. And I'm probably going to marry him. So that's probably going to be my name.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Mr. and Mrs. Smith is actually really cool.
Yeah, it was a great title for a first episode.
And I love this show. I just wanted to say that. I love the show. So that made me want it even more to name this pod.
Shout out Donald Glover.
So good.
So creative. And I can't remember the name of the other lead in it. But she's awesome too.
Amazing.
But yes, but all that to say, we loved your feedback.
Yeah.
One, it's been insane, just the response,
Mm-hmm.
right? Us, shout out David Yanez and the whole squad putting this together, so many other people, Jake Williams, known him since he was 8 years old.
He was in our youth group. He was middle
We've
school.
known him since he was as a young little guy. And yeah, just so many incredible people in Seoul, Mexico City, Aaron McManus, shout out. None of this would happen without him. And it's just been cool doing this together. When we released it, when we decided to let's make this happen, it was just a thing that we're like, we have no idea where this is going to go. We have no idea what's coming of it, and it's just been really beautiful. All you people that have watched, that are tuning in, showing love, all the DMs, the texts, the screenshots, the shares, the comments, it's been really special. Really, I feel like a marker for us that this is why we wanted to do this.
That's true. I was going to say a little shout out to my girls that have helped.
A lot of shout outs today at the beginning of the pod. Love it.
Hey, I want to do this because it's do at least
No,
today.
it's great. I'm not.
One, Natasha from Theory 88, because as much as Joe thinks this is ridiculous to get my hair done before the pod.
I don't think it's ridiculous, but I think it's interesting.
He gives me so much shade that I pretty much just pretend I don't do it, but I still see her because she's my friend, and it's time together to hang out.
Me too. I got my hair done.
Yeah,
right?
You definitely didn't.
You can see every episode. That's why I wear hats.
But I just love spending time with her, and that we talk about the episode, what's happening. It's helps me prep. So I'm just gonna say it's deeper than just my hair, but I love her. If you ever need your hair, Theory 88 is the place to go. And then Abby, who shot the photos for the content. She's incredibly talented and creative. Bella Coleman, who helped me with my outfits and your outfits. Just so many people came together to help us do this, what felt super quick.
Yep.
And we have so many creative people in our community. I was just telling David that there was a comment that said the audio is butter and the visuals are butter.
That's true.
And I was like, that's David Yanez right there.
Yep. Unguarded. Maybe it's a collab. Unguarded and the butter. We have a friend who started a coffee shop called The Butter. So, but yeah, it's just been really, really beautiful. And people, what I love, and I know you as well, people from so many different backgrounds. We are a part of our story, and what grounds us, what centers us is our relationship with Jesus, and in the context of Mosaic, our community. But I love the fact that there have been so many people who do not believe in God, who do not go to church, atheist, new age, that we've gotten messages from people going, I can't tell you how much these conversations have helped. Even last week we released an episode on poly relationships, and got a text from a friend who's a close family friend is deep in a poly community, and it's sucking the life out of her, and I don't know how to help. And so thank you so much for the conversation, because it's helped me be able to know how to navigate. So even after 2 weeks and 2 episodes, we feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And yeah, we thought today, let's, what should we talk about? We were going back and forth on a bunch of different things. Like, it's an interesting time in our household. Like, our baby girl got locked in the bathroom yesterday, for like 30 minutes and couldn't get out.
We have to say that River, our third.
I was trying not to shame our 4-year-old, her brother who locked her in, but you outed him.
It's just so cheeky. We're like, what? He thought it would be funny and that we'd be able to unlock her out, get her out quickly. But that was not the case.
Yeah. So not only is she locked in the bathroom, we found out she has a double ear infection.
Oh, yeah.
And a ruptured eardrum and pneumonia. And would never know because she's just laughing and playing.
Well, the thing is, too, like I have to say in the bathroom situation, the water was running while she was locked in the bathroom. So I literally had to be like, baby Rocky girl, like as calm as I could be, like, can you go over to the bathtub and turn off the water? And hopefully at, she's 2.5, almost 3.
But I sidetracked us.
Yes.
I know, but just.
But hey.
Well, I'm trying to get us back because we got to jump in. We got things to talk about. We got things to do. And we're going back and forth.
I'm so nervous about this pod.
Right? You're so nervous about it. But that's why we're delaying, giving you some time to get ready. So tell us, why are you nervous about? What did we agree to talk about?
Because Joe texted me and was like, hey, I think we should talk about sex, capital letters.
All caps? Did I do all caps?
You did.
Okay.
And I gave the emoji like, I don't think so. Like, I don't know if I'm ready. And then, of course, we asked people, hey, should we talk about this? And everyone literally was like, yes, you have to talk about this. So I'm like, I think sex is such a broad topic.
It's true.
But we could talk about it in different sections because we can start off from the beginning of our journey with sex.
Not the beginning of sex.
No, just the beginning of our journey of sex. And then we can talk about later on in some other parts, like our sex life now, which I'm definitely not ready for, but.
Maybe we'll start there. Here's the thing. We have 4 kids. So people I saw a doctor yesterday and there was a survey and questionnaire and they're like, how's your libido? I don't know if this is too invasive. And I was like, look, I got 4 kids. I think that says enough. She was just dying laughing.
That's true.
Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah.
But yes, we don't need to be shy about this conversation. We feel like it's a really important conversation.
That is true.
And this isn't a topic just to like shock value or like, let's get clicks or no, because we believe it's essential to our humanity. It's essential to our character. And I think we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start with the fact, love my parents, incredible parents, heroes in my life. But the first time we ever talked about sex in my family was when my parents found out I was having sex. That was the first conversation.
What a great conversation.
Oh, it was amazing. I love reliving that moment as a 16-year-old kid. Oh, it's just beautiful. I loved it, So I know in my story, I haven't talked about it, didn't talk about it enough growing up. And I get it when it's the context of faith, right? Spirituality. It can be a little layered, a little complex. And even us navigating this with our kids. Mm-hmm. Our oldest is about to be 10. And we're trying to figure out, because I don't want to replicate. Again, my parents did so many amazing things well, but I wish they would have handled the sex conversation differently. So I'm trying to use that as fuel to, prepare our kids.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we had a sex talk scheduled with our almost 10-year-old. And he was so excited because he's getting more curious and he's wondering, right? So remember he was talking about, it's Sunday. Like me and Dad, and we're gonna have to talk.
He's so excited.
And then I chickened out. Completely chickened out. I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
What I love is like a week ago something, he said, Mom, like I'm so excited for this work trip where you're taking him to Brazil.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm so excited for this trip. I'm like, why? Like, why are you so excited? Like, what are you excited for? And he's like, I'm excited that Daddy and I will be alone, so we have to have the sex talk. So he's more excited about the sex talk than going to Brazil. Yes. I'm like, okay, you have to have that conversation with him.
Yep. So why do we have such a hard time talking about sex? Why did you not want to talk about it today?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's very, it's vulnerable, but I agree that I didn't have a good I don't think it's not that I don't think I had a good understanding about sex, but I agree that I never even thought about having the conversation with my parents. Like, it was never spoken about. I knew they had sex because I could hear it, and I was like, hated it.
Oh my goodness. You could hear it, seriously. Oh, Pam, I'm so sorry. I hope you don't listen to this episode.
But I'm like, I guess I was glad that, like, oh, great, the relationship is good if they're, But we never spoke about it, and maybe that I've only really just, it's occurring to me right in this very moment that maybe that is part of the problem about my journey with sex, that it was never spoken about. And if you don't talk about it, then it becomes this gray, murky area where you kind of fall into it, and you don't really know the consequences because you don't give yourself time to really think. Like, for the first time I lost my virginity, I was a little tipsy, so that's terrible. I look back and I'm like, I was proud that I was a virgin, and then I just, on a whim, thought, heck, who cares? Was with someone I cared about, but I think, okay, the moment I opened that gate, it was hard to shut.
Sure.
And even after doing it, I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask for anyone's advice.
Why?
Because I had no one to talk to. I guess I had my parents I could have asked, but I felt uncomfortable and I didn't want to share it.
Did you feel guilty?
Yeah.
Shame?
I felt guilty. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
So I just realized, okay, I guess I'm going to keep doing it because I care about the person, I love the person. And then, I told myself, okay, well, we're probably going to get married, so it's going to be okay. But I was 16, so.
Oh, wow.
That was
That's 16, thinking about marriage.
I know, I was a hard romantic, and now I'm like, that was super foolish. But I think that is a key thing, is that I never spoke to anyone about it. At the time, I didn't have like that close of friends because we had just moved cities, and that was a thing, I guess. Like, all of this is coming to me now, actually, looking back.
Yeah.
And then later on, like when I became more of an adult and kept saying like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then one time just like, okay, does it matter? Like, what am I holding on for? But that relationship was probably one of the hardest because I felt like I gave up on me, and I felt, it was super. I didn't like myself in that relationship, full stop, let alone having sex with a person. So I think it was like layers and layers of what's the word? Like devaluing myself. And you could pretend that it doesn't matter, and you could keep saying to yourself it doesn't matter. But in the end, it really was eroding at my soul, and I didn't like it, but I didn't know how to say, like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And yeah, I just remember feeling very anxious about it.
That's an interesting note, going, you wouldn't think, there would be a relationship between, not feeling great about yourself or devaluing yourself, and then an act of sex you'd think, make you feel better about yourself, gives you power, gives you intimacy, it helps you connect with the person, but is the opposite actually true? That the more you go there with a person that, or maybe let's backtrack for a second.
See, this is why I didn't want to talk about it. I'm like so emotional right now.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
I mean, I know it's good, but
it's raw. It's real. So what's got you emotional?
I guess because I haven't really thought about it, and I think I'm really tired.
Really tired. Yeah.
No, I haven't really thought about it in a really long time. So to go back there, I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah, these are the things we go back to for
other people.
For other people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think like if I could have just said, okay, well, this is a relationship I don't even want to be in. Like even another relationship after that, I was like, this person I don't even want to be with, but they literally kept like, I like you, I want to date you, like pushed, and then I didn't have the strength to be like, okay, I felt manipulated into the relationship. because I didn't have my core, like, I didn't have me anymore. Like, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't have the voice to say, actually, I don't like you. I don't find you attractive. I remember dating this guy. I'm like, I literally want to hide in the mall because I don't want anyone to see me with you because I don't find you attractive. So then why am I with you? But it shows how little value I had for myself that I would say yes to someone like that and not stand up for, no, I don't want to do this. But it was an extension of my unhealth and my loneliness. And I was working a lot in hospitality. I didn't have good friends. I didn't have healthy friends. So I think that has a large part of it. Like, if you don't want to end up in that place where it's an unhealthy relationship romantically, first think about your friends. Because I was thinking about this recently. I had a friend who was really unhealthy, really bad influence, but I felt became a people pleaser. And I remember going to her house specifically and the mom saying, like, I'm so glad you're friends with her. Like, you're such a good friend to her. Like, we don't know what we would do without you. And it made me feel like, oh my gosh, why am I here? Why am I friends with you? Because you're not healthy for me, but I'm staying because I feel guilty. This is like a long roundabout, but it did make me think, if I could only have said no to those relationships, then I would have said no to romantic, unhealthy relationships. And all of it was a reflection of my internal world that I didn't know was broken. And this is like my early 20s.
Yeah. So what shifted?
Well, my half-sister, stepsister situation.
Don't have time to get into all that. Yeah.
She randomly gave her life to Jesus, gives me a call, knew that I had been raised going to church. And so she calls me up and she's like, hey, I would love I want to go to church, but I don't want to go alone. Will you go with me? So I went further away from my house to go to a church near her. And I remember walking through the door.
Got this.
No, it was really, it wasn't even like, I just remember thinking, oh, these people are so kind. And maybe it's crazy that, oh my God, that someone's kindness can draw you in, and you go, okay, I'll come back. Because at first, when I first went, I didn't see anyone that I would be friends with, but people that I wouldn't normally be friends with, or older people, I was just like, you're just so kind, so I'm just going to come back. And I'm going to come back, I guess, for Charlotte too. And then that place became my church, my community. And I just started getting drawn in. I started meeting people who really loved Jesus. And I was like, okay, that's who I want to be. Like, once I saw the person, you're crying. Once I saw the person that was who I wanted to be, I was like, okay, that's it. Like, it's like drifting. I remember having this thought, like, oh, there's so many people around me that I don't want to be like, and I'm like hanging out with, but they're not my people. And they're like thinking like, yeah, having sex is whatever. And I don't want to be like that. Like, even if I am having sex, I don't want to do it, and I don't want to be in this relationship. And so the moment, it's just clarifying to me, like, the moment you can find someone who's the person you want to be like, then just keep going to that place and surrounding yourself with those people, because eventually they'll rub off on you, and I started emulating everything they did. Like there was a girl, her name was Beck too, and Larissa. And I was like, what do you do to be like this? And they're like, we read the scriptures. I was like, okay, I'm just going to start reading the scriptures. And slowly and surely, like my inner world started getting stronger. And I fell in love with Jesus. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to actually give my life to you and see what actually happens if I give you everything, not just like part of my life, but my relationships, which was my downfall. I was like, I keep choosing people that out of what kindness, but it's not, because I'm devaluing me. And it's a waste of time. It like will detract your whole life. Like don't waste your time on people that you know don't bring you more life. Yep. And don't pretend that you're doing it. You know, I pretended, oh, well, I'm helping them.
Sure.
But to what cost? And really, it doesn't help them either. You developing yourself and being with them and you not being the best, brightest self does not help that other person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll give you a sec. Grab some water. Collect yourself. We'll play tag. Because I feel like there's so much in that. I feel like that was just a beautiful reminder of what can happen when you make a shift. And when you make shifts, it's painful. When you fight for a new future, it's uncomfortable. It's challenging. When when you're breaking patterns and norms.
That's true.
Like that.
Dang, that's so good. Breaking patterns. It's really hard.
It's hard, yeah. I think we joke all the time, right? The only way you have a breakthrough is you got to break, and that's a part of it. And yeah, like I know for me, like I grew up kind of in a faith family, and the reason we didn't talk about sex is because the Bible says you don't have sex before marriage, and so there it is. And I had something in my favor as a younger kid, through high school. I was a nerd. I was chubby. I was,
so cute.
Nickname was Turtle when I played sports because I had these thick goggles all the way through my junior year. So what helped me is there was no temptation. There was no girls interested.
But when you became a teenager, you said it changed.
It's a teenager. It was my junior year.
Yeah.
Not just a teenager, but in my junior year, I was 16 years old, so it was late in the game. But yeah, lost some of the baby fat, went to from glasses to contacts, and all of a sudden, girls are like, oh, Joe, right? And then all of a sudden, okay, there's options, there's desires, and as you're changing. But yes, my struggle was I just didn't have a big enough why, And I think that's a lot of times in the faith background and the faith stories is that we just tell people don't have sex. That's it.
Yeah.
There's not but what do you do? Or what's the healthy expression? Because even the scriptures talk about it, all right? And I love the fact that we have people that listen to this podcast, and we have friends, dear friends that are with us every week that do not believe in the scriptures, that do not have a faith. And so I love that even they're tuning in, but there's still principles I think that could be applied to the human story and to our character. And when you look at the scriptures, right, I always want to go, why? Why is this in here? What is God trying to get us to understand? Because it's not enough to just be like, don't have sex. That's not a great enough vision. And so I had sex when I was in high school and with a girlfriend. And even though it felt wrong deep down, I didn't think I was going to hell. I didn't think I was going to spontaneously combust. I didn't think I was going to thumb his nose down on me. But internally, there was something that was like, you're more than this. Nobody told me this. I didn't read it in the Bible. Something in me said, you're more than this. And so then I just started searching, trying to find my why. And I can remember the moment it shifted. And it was when I read this verse, and it's powerful in the scriptures. It says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And when I read that, I felt like it was for the first time. And I translated that through my own lens, that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I feel like that's what God was trying to tell us. That one, sex is beautiful. We should have said this earlier. Can't believe we haven't said it. Sex is beautiful because it's a gift from God. Mm-hmm. Like he knew that it would be a longing for us. He knew it would be desire. There's a practical aspect to it, right? It's reproduction. It ensures the future of our species. But also it's just, God wants us to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he gave us was the gift of sex. And so we know it's a gift from him, but the context is always important. Mm-hmm. And when I read that passage and when I just began to like have a new story in my life, just because you can doesn't mean you should, it reframed who I wanted to become. That I did not just want to make decisions for my own benefit. That I didn't just want to act on my own desires. That I don't want to be a primal individual, like an animal that, I have an urge, so you have to act on it. Mm-hmm. I think there's something really beautiful about the power of self-control.
Yeah, you have that down on lock.
On lock. Sometimes the lock gets unlocked.
I mean, I guess it's true when it comes to fitness, but
take shots fired. Wow.
But I do feel like you have great character, and it is basis on your self-control. Like I don't know how you learned. I feel like it was almost like not that you were born with it, but you really did choose things wisely, even as after that relationship, you never went there again.
Had sex with girls dating in high school, and then that relationship ended, and never had sex again until our wedding night. Because even that's a part of our story, that we committed to each other. When we were dating early on, we said, hey, we want to wait to have sex, to have that moment of intimacy together on our wedding night. Mm-hmm. And it was a value for us. And it's hard. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, literally about this very conversation, because he's like really pressing into his faith and wanting to grow in his character. And it was one of those things, like we were having a kind of a conversation around it. And I finally just was, straight up and let's talk about sex. Let's talk about, and I shared our story, how we didn't have sex before marriage. And he was like, I'm gonna be honest, that's gonna be really hard for me. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? Can I tell you something? He said, yeah. I said, it was really hard for me too.
Yeah.
You think that just it's easy, or because I was a pastor, that it's like, awesome, there's no temptation, or God removes the desire. Yeah. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have sex with you all the time.
Thanks.
That like there was not a day that I did not think about what we could do together.
Yeah.
But that's the power of our character, is that we do not let our urges have mastery over us. Mm-hmm. We have mastery over our urges, our desires. We take control of the person that we want to be and the way that we want to treat the people around us.
Yeah.
And it was one of the hardest things we ever did. And it was tough.
Yeah. I think for me, it was so freeing and so healing because of your restraint and your self-control. And I mean, I loved that we both came into the relationship wanting, we don't want to have sex before we're married. But I do love, I want to
reframe that. I don't know if we ever said we don't want to have sex before we're married.
We want to have sex.
I think we would use the language. I remember, because we want to be very intentional. Yeah. We're waiting to have sex before we're married. We're
waiting to have sex
until
we're married.
We get married.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's an important distinction. Okay, that we're not focusing on the not having. Yeah. We're focusing on what we're creating. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. But continue.
No, that's really good. I remember talking to a mentor and saying this is really hard. And it was great because she was like, of course it's going to be hard. It's hard when you've gone there and then you have to pull back and then become something new. Like you said, breaking patterns that it's like you can say, I really want this, but to actually do it and live and say, no, I'm not going to go past kissing and making out with you. Mm-hmm. It's really hard because your body can take over and just go, who cares?
Yeah.
But I loved that we both had said, okay, we're not doing this. And then anytime we felt like, okay, this is going too far, it seems crazy, but we literally had a conversation afterwards. The more we spoke about it, the better it got. The more stronger we got with it, the more we felt like this is our conviction that we have. And I loved that you taught me this is how you love someone else. Like for me to cross that line with you would be taking something from you rather than serving you, loving you, and not taking something from you. It's like, I don't want to, you said something like, I don't want to steal that from you because it's not mine to have.
Yeah, I remember those conversations. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to take a place that I'm not first one to commit to. And so yeah, like that, it was like, we're not gonna have sex unless we're husband and wife, because one, I value you too much, I respect you too much, and also I have respect for your future husband.
Yeah.
And if it's not me, I don't ever want to take something that was not for me. And it was hard. And again, it would have been so easy just to act on those urges, but I just feel like that's one thing I have learned early on, and as a value, and I think I get from my dad, I get from mentors of mine like Pastor Irwin, you know, incredible people who I have in my life that just fighting for a new standard, you know? And even as a kid, that's the thing, as a kid, like and we've talked about this, it's connected, but not, I guess, but you know, I've never been drunk in my entire life, never done any drugs.
So I just married a goody two-shoe.
Yeah, you know, goody two-shoe for sure. I definitely had sex before marriage, so that was the one.
That's the one.
You
Thank
know,
God you had something, or else I just had everything, and you.
But a huge thing is friends and all my boys would be like, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. Why? Like, oh, it's just because you believe in God and all this, or because your morality. The thing is, it was never about morality for me. It wasn't because I was afraid what God would do, or honestly, as simple as it was early on, I just wanted to show people that there was a different way. I wanted to show that we don't always have to just run in the same circles, and just because everybody's doing it, you just fall into that line. I just remember early on, I don't know where it came from, why, but I said, I'll be the one.
Yeah.
I'll be the one. If there needs to be one, it'll be me.
Yeah.
You know? And so then it began, as I got older, it shifted. Like I didn't drink alcohol at all until I was, I think right before we got married, you know? Like, and I know I was an alien to your family. They're Aussies, right?
Kiwis.
You come out, Aussie Kiwis, yeah, you come out the womb with a glass of wine.
Yeah, it's true.
And for me, it wasn't an issue of morality. I think that's the problem, is if it's just an issue of morality, if it's just about the rule, it'll never be a practice.
That's true.
It'll never be about the essence.
But I do think what's interesting is that even as you're talking about that, I'm like, I felt like when I was a teenager, although I did drink a little bit.
Dehydration headaches.
Yeah, got dehydration headaches.
Oh, just a funny story.
You give me so much shade for that.
One of the first times.
But it's true.
We're
Anyone
dating.
out there can believe. Okay, say it.
Yeah, we're dating, and then one day I just, woke up, I just had a dehydration headache. I was like, what's a dehydration headache? And she begins describing. I was like, oh, a hangover? But a dehydration headache just sounds so much more.
But it's true.
Fancy.
It's actually a true, anyone.
Yes, I'm with you. I just wanted to.
But you give me shade every single time, even though I don't drink anymore.
You just roasted me about my fitness goals.
That's true.
So
okay.
So we roast the ones we love most.
That's true. Okay, so that I felt like I saw even like my friends getting drunk, and I realized earlier on, thinking, hang on a minute, like I don't want to get drunk because that seems to be taking us nowhere. And so I would go to parties, be a part of it, but not do the crazy things that they're doing. But it's like almost we were on the same trajectory, and then something screw-whiffed in my like late teens to early 20s. And one of them, I think, I got further away from God. We stopped going to church as a family. There wasn't that anchor connection. And then I also think we moved to a different city in Melbourne when we were in college, but I just didn't meet anyone that I was like, these are good people. These they're just people around. I don't think I had a great community. And then it's just crazy how your self-esteem and your my value system started shutting down. It's like, I didn't realize that, okay, I'm not doing good. And I couldn't really tell. I just knew, I'm not sure if I like this. I don't like the people I'm hanging out with, but I'm not I don't know. I just think like, we started off in the same trajectory, and then what happened to me that made me like choose less?
I mean, who knows? You could play that game forever, but that's irrelevant to me, because who you were and who you became are two completely different people.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's who you fought to become. That's the beauty of the story, and that's why it doesn't matter whether you had sex or didn't. Like this conversation isn't even trying to sell people on the fact of why you should or shouldn't wait till your marriage. Just telling our story, just talking about what matters to us, and that you have become such a reference point of hope for people, and everyone who knew you back in the day, or everybody who knew the Beck that used to be, and then the Beck that has emerged, can celebrate that the future is always full of hope. That's why it does not matter, like who, I just want to say this to people who are listening right now, it does not matter what your past was. It does not matter what your present is. It does not matter what you did last night. I'm telling you, you can begin to create a new future. The future that you desperately long for, the future that your soul has been yearning for, because that's why I think it matters, because sex is connected to the soul. And that it's not a physical act, it is a spiritual act. And that's why God said, the healthiest expression of your sexuality will be in the context of marriage. Husband and wife, man and woman, not because it's exclusive, because that's the context for what God intended. And when we operate outside of that, it's not that we disappoint God, it's that we live a lesser version of what we are intended to be.
Dang, that's good.
And I think that's why this conversation is important. And why we can push through the uncomfortability and not want to talk about it, or the emotions, because I know there's so many people that probably feel buried under the guilt and the rubble of guilt and shame, right? The weight of feeling like you're living less than. And again, not what anybody else says you should be doing, but what you know at your core. And that was my shift. Nobody had to tell me that I was living less than.
You just knew.
I knew at my core, and I knew I not even that I was more, I wanted to be more. And I wanted to be more for you. I wanted to be able to, last thing, and then I'll let you jump in. I wanted to be able to stand at that altar and look you in the eyes and say, you were worth it. And you were. More so than I could have ever dreamed or imagined. And that's why I don't think about your past for 1 second. I just swim in the power of our current reality and the future that we get to create. Even as simple as, I don't know if you remember this, our very first night together, wedding night, before we had sex. What did we do? We prayed. And it feels so maybe strange for people, but we prayed. And we prayed that, God, we want to have the best sex life on the planet. Not because of the physical act, but because of the spiritual act. And that we believe God wants us to have the best. So we want to have the best marriage, we want to have the best family, we want to have the best careers, the best impact, and we also want to have the best sex, because we wanted to tell a new story of what God has in mind. And that it is absolutely worth the wait, because the future is far more beautiful than you realize.
It's true. Do we want to wrap it up here?
Yes, let's wrap it up here. I feel like it's a nice bow and take us home.
Well, I think like when you said, because you're worth it, I think that's like to hold back on what you want for someone else, to protect, to love, for the kindness of what that means. That was so healing. And then when we did have sex, and we were married and we had sex, it was like, oh my gosh, this is what it was meant to feel like every time. That I felt whole and I felt free, and I didn't have any anxiousness or any thoughts like, okay, now you're going to leave me. I knew this is my person, you're my person, and this is what it was always intended to be. And so it's interesting that you don't know how sex is going to be like in marriage before you are married. But I can tell you, for me, it was the most beautiful, healing, freeing feeling. And it's like, oh my gosh, if only I had known this was waiting for me. And that withholding, that this would be the gift on the other side of that, then I would do it. I would have done it differently.
Yep.
And yeah, I just think the way that you love me, the way that you fight for us, the way that you have taught me so much about character and about withholding and not the way that you have just loved me, and you fought for my future self time and time and time again. And it always blows me away that you knew who I would become and that you kept fighting for that person.
I mean, I didn't know who you would become.
Well,
I
hoped,
but I saw an incredible version of you waiting in the future, and I knew you saw an incredible version of me waiting in the future.
That's true.
And that's the beautiful thing, is like sometimes I think we need to create the space to meet each other in the future, and you don't get to that person until you have the courage to pull out that person. You pulled out the best in me. I hope I pulled out the best in you.
You did.
And then our best versions of ourselves are always being created in the future. Much as I love our life now, I cannot wait to meet the Beck and Joe in the future. Filled with more courage, filled with more grace, filled with more compassion, filled with more kindness. Because everything is connected. And the reason I think God honors us, and he will continue in our future, is because we made a commitment to each other that our lives did not belong to ourselves, and that we were going to serve one another in every aspect, even in our sex life. And by saying no in not the right environment, it created so many more yeses that we couldn't ever have dreamed or imagined or foreseen. And that's why it's an important conversation. And I feel like it's probably one we should do a part 2.
I think so.
Maybe
when I'm not crying.
The tears are unguarded.
I
gotta be.
Can we just not show this episode? But I'll do it for you, because
absolutely. Cause
anyone who's listening, I'm doing it for you.
Because there's a future Beck Smith that somebody is gonna fight for a new future, because they said, if she could do it, I could do it.
That's true.
If he could do it, I could do it.
It's true.
And if you, whoever you're listening, wherever you are, if you can do it, which I know you can, and yes, it will be hard, but we just believe in the power of healthy marriages, healthy futures, healthy sex life. And that's why we wanted to have this uncomfortable but important conversation, because your sex will be healthy when your soul is healthy. And so
true.
Let's have a revolution of health in every aspect of our life. And I promise the future will be worth it. So thank you so much.
For watching.
For listening to this episode. It would mean the world to us to go like, subscribe, comment, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It just helps get this in as many rooms and ears as possible, because we believe in this message, and we hope that it'll help you in the future. So we love you so much. We can't wait to see you on the next episode of Unguarded. Thank you for doing this with me, babe.
Love you.
Love you.